Let's run setup to install the video drivers. NVIDIA setup error. Well, we are off to a good start. So why did I choose PCI Express GeForce 6600 GT for Windows 98? Well, it was a beautiful Saturday morning, and as always, I'm checking my YouTube comments over a cup of coffee, and I see this one. My personal favorite card for Windows 98 is still the NVIDIA 6600 GT. Now guys, I have tried GeForce cards like the 6200 and the 6800 before, and I really wasn't impressed. I had all sorts of issues. But yeah, this got me thinking that maybe I'm missing something, and I want to give it another go. So let's have a close look at the video card. This is the version I have. There are many different versions out there. Mine is from Gigabyte, and it is passively cooled, but it does require a fan. The temperatures can get really high. It's a model from Gigabyte. We can see the PCI Express interface with 16 lanes. At the back we have VGA, DVI, and there's a TV connector with S-Video, composite, and component. Also a SLI bridge connector at the top, so if you want to use two of those in SLI, you can do that. Here we can see the card at the back, more cooling going on, and interesting, the PCI Express versions that don't seem to require the 6-pin power connector. This video is brought to you by Ugreen. Now, I have bought their products before, like this USB hub or this memory card reader, and I found their products to be good value and working really well. If you are in the market for a USB charger, consider the Ugreen Nexode 100 watt 5-port fast charger with gallium nitride technology. It has 4 USB-C and 1 USB-A port. With 100 watts, there's plenty of power to fast charge laptops, tablets or phones. Highlight is the gallium nitride technology with higher efficiency compared to regular chargers, making it smaller, lighter, easier to carry around, and it stays cooler even at full power. Check the video description for more information. The specifications: clock speed is 300 MHz. We have 128 megabytes of RAM, slightly overclocked on this card, which is interesting. I did find a BIOS release on the Gigabyte website, which is quite rare. I did try flashing it, but the card already came with the latest version. We had a look at the graphics card. Now let's talk about the test system. Now this motherboard I've used recently in another project. It's been going through a lot of testing under DOS, 98, XP and Windows 10, so I know it is stable and solid. It is from Soyo, the A10 version 3 with an AMD A10 5750M APU, which has 4 cores and 4 threads. I thought about what amount of memory I should use. We're using a 1 GB module. That means we are running in single channel configuration, but that shouldn't be an issue. For storage, we have a 500 GB Western Digital Blue. It's a SATA drive that worked fine. The Windows 98 that we're using is patched. It can handle large drives, and I'm creating a 80 GB partition. Also, for sound, we're using a Creative Labs Sound Blaster. It's an Audigy 2ZS. We have the video card, we've got the test system. Now we need to install Windows 98. I'm using the USB ODE project using a Raspberry Pi, turning it into a USB optical drive. Really easy. I'm pressing F11, selecting the device, and then we're booting the Windows 98 quick install. I'm creating a new partition. It's got a built-in partition manager, and then we're installing Windows 98. Very easy, and here we are on the desktop ready to go. I tested a bunch of drivers, and I also looked online, and it seems that driver version 77.72 are recommended for our video card, so that's what we're going with. The drivers unfortunately don't recognize my version of the GeForce, so I used the System Information Viewer program to figure out the device ID, which is 0140. So remember that number, 0140. And then I'm having a go at patching the driver to support my video card. It's something I've always been a little bit intimidated by, but it's actually quite straightforward. I had to use WordPad because Notepad complained about not having enough memory. So we are editing the INF file. There's a section at the top and at the bottom with a lot of information, and every line has a different device ID. So I'm just copy pasting one, and yeah, I just changed the device ID to 0140, and the text at the bottom, you can give it a name. So I named it after the model number of my card with a PCI Express at the end so I can recognize it, and boom, after that the drivers install perfectly fine. Here you can see me go through all the driver options. Everything seems to be here. There are plenty of options. Some of the highlights, somewhere hidden, is GPU scaling. Of course, we've got overclocking, we've got AA, AF, and also the GPU has a temperature sensor, and I used that actually and found out that without a fan, the video card will go up to 90 degrees. So I made sure to give it a 120mm fan to keep the temperatures in check. It is time to check out the performance of this video card, so let's do some benchmarking. First up is 3D Mark 99 Max. Here we can see me running the program, and right away we can see this video card is fast. We're getting almost 300 FPS at the beginning of the benchmark. Here is the final score, 23,476. In 3D Mark 2000, we don't see the FPS counter at the beginning. All we can see is it's silky smooth, and the score does not disappoint, 25,466. And now we're running some time demo benchmarks. Here we have GL Quake, fantastic performance, over 300 FPS even at 1280 by 1024. We can see the same thing in Quake 2, hundreds of FPS, absolutely amazing. Quake 3, a little bit more demanding, but no challenge for the GeForce 6600 GT. Here we have some direct 3D benchmarks. Expendable does not disappoint, over 200 FPS across the board. And here we have Draken. That game is a little bit more demanding, but still over 160 FPS. So with all this performance, what we can do is enable some eye candy features like anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering. I'm going into the drivers, and we're using 4x AA and 16x AF. I ran all the Quake 3 tests again, and here we can see the impact of those eye candy features. Well, even at 4x AA and 16x AF, the GeForce 6600 GT is fast enough to run Quake 3 even at 1600 by 1200 with over 140 FPS. I love testing Serious Sam to have a look at the anti-aliasing quality. It's doing a good job cleaning up the geometry, but it struggles with transparent textures. You can see it in the palm trees. And isotropic filtering, it's also doing a good job. We can see sharper textures as you look into the distance, but it's not perfect. It is a step down from the GeForce FX. In Return to Castle Wolfenstein, we can see it is dependent on the angle. As we rotate to the sides, we can see that the filtering gets worse and the textures become blurry. This wasn't really fixed until the arrival of the 8800 GTX. Enjoying this video? Why not subscribe to my channel or support me through Patreon? You get early access to my videos, and we can chat on Discord. So guys, we checked out the performance. It is terrific. What about legacy features like paletted textures and table fog? Let's start checking out table fog first. This one is more important because quite a few games support it, and without it, games can look a little bit dull and boring. Thief 2, yes, it passes the check. I've tested both the demo version and the full version. We are getting working fog. Just make sure you toggle it in the graphics options. Here I'm playing some Insane, a fun racing game. Yeah, fog is being displayed perfectly fine. I also like testing this one. It is Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, and we can see the fog is rendered beautifully. And I've added another game to my fog tests. It is Heavy Gear 2, and also displaying fog perfectly. And what about 8-bit paletted textures? Driver is what I like to test this feature with. We can see the lights on the left side, they are static. There's no animation happening, so it does not seem like the GeForce 6600 GT supports this feature. In Final Fantasy VII, we can see it also reporting not supported, and we can see the same thing in Final Fantasy VIII. So we can conclude that the GeForce 6600 GT does not support 8-bit paletted textures, but it's not a big deal. It only affects just a handful of games in a meaningful way. So far, so good. We've got outstanding performance and table fog is working, but what about games compatibility? Well, I did just that. I tested a lot of games. That's why I partitioned my hard drive to be so large in order to fit a bunch of games. So we will start with the first game I tested and then discuss one by one if I noticed any issues. The first one is Abe's Odyssey. I remember this one from the PlayStation, so it's a PC port, very similar to the Flashback game and seems to be working just fine. Alone in the Dark, the new Nightmare, tank controls just like the first games in DOS and of course just like Resident Evil. Works fine, it looks good. I never played this one, so maybe I should. Deus Ex is next, seems to be running fine. 1024 by 768 is the resolution. Not in all games I noted down what resolution I'm playing at, but yeah, this one seems to be working just fine. This is Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. Looks a little bit rough and raw, to be honest, as if it's software rendered, or it reminds me of a SimCity game that runs under DOS. Very similar graphics. Seems to be working fine. Anno 1602, Creation of a New World. This one did not work for me. We can see the logo briefly displayed and then a black screen with just the mouse cursor. This is Blood 2. Make sure triple buffering is enabled in the options and VSync in the driver. Runs great. Make sure EAX is enabled in the sound options. I did notice there's a very fine line on around the edges that sometimes flickers. I've seen the same thing in another game that uses the same engine. Clive Barker's Undying. I'm testing with nGlide, so I installed DirectX 9 and a copy of nGlide just to see if that works, and worked without any issues. The game worked straight out of the box, just copying the nGlide files into the directory of the executable. I've heard very good things of this game, but I never really played it. Enemy Engaged, Comanche versus Hokum. Well, here just the screen flashes and then the capture card loses the signal, so I have to reset the machine. Battle Realms, nice graphics. I never played this one. At first I thought it's a slasher, but it seems to be more like an RTS game. Not quite sure, but yeah, seems to be working just fine. Conflict Desert Storm, a third-person shooter. Graphics look good. Played it a little bit. The controls are a little bit clunky, but yeah, another game that's been working fine. Daikatana is next. OpenGL. I believe 1024 by 768 is the resolution I picked. Looks great, runs great. Made by, John Romero. Nothing other than the guy who was part of Doom. And again, another game I've never played. I'm testing Descent 3. This is with the 1.5 unofficial patch. Direct 3D is messed up and it locks up the machine, but the OpenGL option and the nGlide option works fine. I do feel that OpenGL runs a little bit smoother, and although I've selected 32-bit colors, I do get some color banding, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. This is Dungeon Keeper 2, another game that seems to be working just fine, but it is scrolling a little bit too fast. Well, we have a very fast processor. Earthworm Jim 3D, we're getting an illegal operation error. Free Space is looking fine. This is also a game I have not tested. Apparently after Descent 2, the developers split up into two teams. One of them worked on Descent 3 and the other one moved on to Free Space. So definitely should check this out at some point. IG-I2 Covert Strike. This game is a good example of some of the general stability issues I faced. So after testing games, when you move on from one game to the next, suddenly that game wouldn't launch, but after rebooting your machine, then it works. So it seems that you need to keep your system fresh and after each game do a reboot. I played this one a little bit longer. You have to infiltrate the camp. I didn't figure out how to get in. There's a fence, you've got a knife, but for some reason you can't cut the fence. But yeah, looks interesting. Stealth gameplay, I like it. Here we have Incoming, a very well-known game, a voodoo killer application. Thanks to the stunning 32-bit graphics. In the forums, NVIDIA fans would use this game to showcase how superior their TNT 2 was over Voodoo 3, for example. This is an interesting game. It doesn't render correctly on any NVIDIA card after the TNT 2, something to do with color keying. The game is still playable, but the HUD is messed up and it just doesn't look right. Max Payne and Max Payne 2 both work fine. It has some nice graphics options in the beginning when you launch the game. I finished the first one. You might have seen that previous video, but I had to use a trainer. It was just too hard. So I'm itching to play the second one at some point. I had a go at testing some Need for Speed games. First up is Need for Speed 3 or Hot Pursuit. And these games, they need patches. They have issues with more modern NVIDIA drivers. And I'm using the modern patch and the DirectX 8 render. So this game works fine. So does Need for Speed 4. High stakes or road challenge depending on the region. Also using the modern patch. Also using the DirectX 8 render. Both games play really smooth on this machine thanks to the fast processor and the strong video card. Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. This was a pain to get going. All sorts of issues with broken menus. I had to try out all sorts of patches. In the end, I don't even know which patch ended up working. It was one that had a little menu where you could choose the render, and the only one that worked for me was the OpenGL1 render. I played it a little bit, but this game is a real challenge to get going. Screamer 4x4. Usually this game never gives me any issues, especially with a NVIDIA card. I just select OpenGL and it should work fine, but not here. We hear a ding sound, the game locks up. I tried Direct 3D, but the image is messed up, flashing textures. So the only way to run this today was with the Glide API through nGlide, but the graphics look much worse, very rough, so that's a shame. Serious Sam, I tested first encounter and second encounter. Both games work just fine. They have an OpenGL render as well as Direct 3D integrated. I tested with OpenGL and no issues to report. Here I'm playing some Delta Force games. Voxel Graphics, remember Comanche from DOS? It's the same company, Nova Logic. I'm testing 4 games. We've got the first Delta Force 2, Land Warrior, and Task Force Dagger. This is another game I ended up playing a little bit longer. The first Delta Force I've showcased in a recent video, and the one that stood out most to me is Land Warrior. That first mission in Egypt is absolutely beautiful. Shogo Mobile Armor Division, another game like Blood 2 where you need to enable triple buffering in the options, make sure to have VSync enabled in the driver, and just like Blood 2 it runs great, but there is a thin line on the screen edge that sometimes flickers. Tomb Raider 2, 3 and Tomb Raider The Last Revelation. All of these games worked without any issues. You can create a shortcut to the executable with the dash setup parameter to change some settings like the resolution. I think I chose 1024 by 768. All these games ran fine. Here we have Unreal and Unreal Tournament. Again, I'm using nGlide. I am aware that there are some more modern renders available. Maybe I should look into that, but I wanted to test out nGlide, make sure it's working, and yes, looks good, and these 2 games run great. Well, I'm really happy I gave this video card another try. I don't know why, but for some reason the experience is much better than I had with trying GeForce 6 series cards in the past. So on the plus we have outstanding performance, Compatibility with games wasn't that bad. Yes, some games didn't work, but the vast majority of games worked just fine. We have enough performance for eye candy features, AA, AF, and also support for table fog. And thanks to PCI Express, we can slot this into more modern machines like Core 2 or something from AMD, let's say a Phenom 2 machine. On the negative side, I saw general system instability and I had to reboot between testing games. That could just be the nature of this late driver. So that is the big disadvantage of the GeForce 6600 GT. We can't use older, more compatible drivers. We are forced to use something more modern that introduces issues. We are also not compatible with 8-bit paletted textures, but only a handful of games are affected in a meaningful way. And finally, you might have to patch the graphics drivers if you want to install them through the setup utility, but as I showed in the video, it's really not a big deal. Also, I got a very good comment from one of you. You can just dual boot your machine because some of the games that don't work under Windows 98, well, they will work fine under Windows XP. So yeah, there you have it. If you want a high-end Windows 98 retro gaming PC able to pump out several hundreds of FPS and turning up that eye candy, consider this video card. It really surprised me. And now I want to hear from you. Have you had a go at using a GeForce 6 series under Windows 98? And what is your feedback? What driver version are you using and what issues did you see? I'm looking forward to the next Saturday morning, enjoying a cup of coffee and reading your comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave suggestions and any feedback down below in the comment section as always. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel and I shall see you soon with another one.